So what's up,
I'm
man?
super psyched. I'm super psyched. So I really appreciate you guys inviting me on here.
Oh, that's okay. My pleasure. So tell us about yourself first. You're in Sydney. I'm in Sydney as well myself. Are you a developer?
Yes, uh, I came here in 2019 to translate all my game economics work into blockchain game economics work, um, and ended up designing a couple early blockchain games, Gods Unchained and Guild of Guardians,
Awesome.
before
You've built a really good game. They're very popular, Chain of Guardians.
Yeah, yeah. I Before that, I did World of Tanks Blitz and World of Warships. Those games made over $1 billion. So I'd had a lot of experience in the AAA space before moving over here. But as you probably know, I've been writing about game economics and player-to-player trade economies since at least 2010, and I've been working to develop play to earn game systems and business models since at least 2005. So this is something I actually predicted in a paper I wrote back in what I mean this whole blockchain, metaverse, player-to-player economies. I predicted in a paper I wrote back in 2010. So I've just been waiting patiently for the tech to catch up
To
to,
reach.
yeah, and of course the teams. I mean, I'm just one person. I can't build all this stuff without the right team, and that that all came together about 15 months ago when my co-founders, who are in the VR, MR, and AR filmmaking uh, business, contacted me after having read that same paper from 2010 and saying, "Hey, we spent 6 months looking for the right person, and you look like that person because we want to build this transmedia company that combines, you know, um, high tech filmmaking with AAA gaming, with social media, with the crypto space, because they're also crypto enthusiasts." And they said, "Well, you've been writing about this stuff for over a decade, so you look like the guy." And we're philosophically aligned, so we teamed up and got to work. And I really I can't even begin to say how excited I am because I mean up to now I've been really mostly working on other people's games with some really noteworthy successes, but still I was very
That's not
limited
your
in what
own.
I could do. But yeah, I
I
mean,
was going to say
when
it's
you're
not
working on
your
somebody
own.
else's, yeah, I think my vision's pretty big, and I want to do all these really high tech things that haven't been done before. So if people are just playing conservatively and just want to know what they do, what they can see, and I'm helping them complete that, that's one thing. But it's hard to get people to see what I see. My partners do. My partners are very much in alignment with what I want to build here. But it's hard to get people to, especially take risks and innovate to a level where you're going where no man has gone before, uh, um, because it's high risk, and so people don't want to risk
Yeah, that's
not
understandable. A lot of people
succeeding.
feel comfortable. So
Yeah.
are these the articles that you wrote or the books that you wrote, the psychology of gaming and how to make healthy games in the Discord at the moment? Because these have
You mean the
2018.
if it's
Yeah,
the
so
physiology of gaming, then yes.
he's got a whole list of them. I've listed a few of them from Ramim. So where's Sarcerok? Where does the name come from? Is that a gaming handle for you?
Well, I mean, originally it came from I needed a name for a lizard man shaman in a role playing game called Roll Master, and Sarcerok was just something it sounded like something a lizard would say, like a Gorn from Star Trek. And but then when I ended up becoming a gaming journalist in 2001, uh, I have been using that as like a gaming nick. But I actually got death threats in 2001 just because my name sounded Middle Eastern. after the 9/11 situation, and I had 400,000 daily readers for my game journalism, and one or more of them ended up sending me some detailed death threats with my home address in them, and I was like, okay, well, I can't be doing this under my real name anymore. So for the next 10 years, I used that gamer nick because I knew it was unique because I made it up as my pen name, and I still use it as my gamer tag, and um, here I am.
Just for
I
a little
wouldn't
bit
take
of
your name as being like that at all. I could sort of looks mythical, like a Dungeon and Dragons sort of name.
yeah,
That's what I
I've
got from it.
very D&D name to it as well, Aggie. So we're uber nerds from back in the day. I've not heard of the game you're talking about though. Was that a paperback role playing game?
Oh, I mean, Rollmaster was the most over the top, you know, fantasy and sci-fi role-playing game ever invented. I mean, the whole, especially if you were a min-maxer, they had a separate paper-backed critical chart for almost everything, from tiny creature criticals. You know, a little creature, if it rolled high enough, could fly through the air and and eat your eyeball. Or there were like radiation criticals. Like with one of the top radiation critical on this chart was you've been turned to liquid, you've been turned to goop. Try a spatula. I mean the critical hit chart tables were hilarious. I mean, you learned so much about anatomy from having all your organs destroyed in that game. It was just that game was hilarious to play. It was a lot of work because there's so many tables and so much content. But if you were hardcore into pen and paper role playing, Rollmaster was the ultimate.
I've noticed a resurgence in role playing, Eggy and Metaverse. Have you guys seen that of lately? A lot of people talking about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I think
to that super edgy now, I think.
Yeah, it has. I think it's like come back because we see it in pop culture a lot. Like one of the Stranger Things movie, the series where they actively play.
The Demogorgon.
Yeah, the Demogorgon. Yeah, so like we're seeing it pop up in pop culture more recently. So people are like, oh, there was this game, and then it comes back to just having connection, sitting next to someone and playing this game. So yeah, I do think it is having a resurgence. People always bring things back.
I can't wait for that.
At the risk of dating myself, I started playing Dungeons and Dragons First Edition in 1977.
Damn, you got older balls than me. I'm trying to do the math.
Definitely older balls.
I'm trying to think of when we started. So we were about 12, 13 when we started, and that would have been 92, 93. So that's a good chunk of time before us. I love it. So for people, there are two channels to have a look at. We've got the Project Eluüne Friday questions up there. That's got some links to Project Eluüne. There's a short paper there done by Bro420. I asked him to deep dive the team, and he's come up with that. It's quite a good read. It's definitely worth opening now because you can see some more of the team that Sarcerok's talking about. You've got a heavy amount of time within the industry, Sarcerok, and one of the reasons I thought would be really cool to get you on stage, well, for starters, is your time zone matches our show, so obviously it's not very American friendly. But Six and Metaverse, myself, we're all Aussies, and Metaverse in Sydney, like yourself. Next week there is a live event too. I need to talk to you later about that. But it could be a good chance to catch up and actually meet Metaverse and some other developers and people for Solana. It's a really cool chance.
Yeah, man, we'll be there.
I love Australia. I'm here for the long haul. I'm applying for a partner visa with my partner, who's amazing, and hoping to be able to stay here.
Yeah, so we'll set you up with that. That'd be awesome. Like, to me, gaming by itself was just awesome to do live events. I talk about it a bit, like did them for Clash of Clans and stuff. And I've met some of the guys in Perth last time I was there, and it's to get that connection of just random people. One was a developer, a couple of guys that were into their NFTs and have since done their own projects and done their own things, and it's just amazing. I think that to miss things like Breakpoint, not even have a chance. I was devastated to miss next week. If I had known a week earlier, I would have made a play and got down there. But we'll loop this back in. So you've done, was it 5 years of actual journalism for the gaming industry as part of your time? So talk a little bit about that. Like, how is that reflected on
Yeah.
nowadays?
Well, 1999, I got into EverQuest, and people started offering me money for things that I was earning in the game, which just kind of shocked me. I mean, why would somebody give me hundreds of dollars for a sword or something like that? And I ended up making so much more money just gaming than I was like working as a teacher, that I ended up just working full time as a gamer starting in 1999. And I thought this was so amazing that I went to the Los Angeles Times, which I've been reading every day since I was like 12, uh, and and said, "Hey, I've got this story you might want to run with about people selling virtual goods for real money." And they teamed me up with the tech editor, and it ended up on the column one of the front page of the Los Angeles Times on, I think, April 20th or something, 2000. So 21 years ago. And
Damn, man.
it was the first ever article about virtual good sales. And from there, I had so much fun co-writing that article that I ended up becoming a gaming journalist myself, and I specialized in like really deep, intense MMO game reviews, because my standard was I
You put
would
your
not
hand
do
here so
any
people can see.
review until
Just
I had
put
spent
your
at least
hand in the
200
little,
hours in the game, which was far more than
almost.
what you would normally see when you were reading a review. So I would go into like really tell you what it was like, not just the first hour or two where it's designed to be, very player friendly, but actually tell you, what you should be doing in the game, what you can expect, all the little tricks. Um, and in the process, I just have a natural ability for math. I'm kind of like an autistic savant, and so I was picking up all this game economics stuff so rapidly that I ended up, while various game developers would ask me to review their games, and while I was there, I would offer to help them with their game economies, and uh, and so I ended up working on almost every early MMO, at least for a few months, long enough time for me to review their game, help them with their game economy, move on to the next one. I usually wouldn't stick with one more than it took for me to learn everything I could from the studio. And so I ended up learning from 20, 30 of the best studios in the world in just a short period of time, and developing all these game economic skills. And I had such a high altitude view, especially seeing what was going on in the East versus what was going on in the West, development of free to play and pay to win in the East. The West was oblivious to this and was sticking with retail and subscription, didn't see what was coming. I didn't think pay to win was going to be so popular in the West, but I saw that it was going to be forced on us because we weren't developing a free to play alternative. Uh, I brought all these concerns to uh, various industry heads, and they all said that just either didn't understand what I was talking about, or said that it was inevitable, or that there were no solutions. And I thought, there's all these things can be solved. I saw it as like a mathematical problem with a mathematical solution. And I just went into seclusion in 2005 and started developing the field of game economics to try to solve primarily the problems in the World of Warcraft economy. And uh, I even went back to school to study economics for a couple of years, and I was getting on in age by then. And so I was twice as old as the other students in my classes, but I finished top of my class in a top economics school. And then I I was a little bit too early to go into academia, because the professors didn't really understand why there would be a need for game economics in the future. So instead, I ended up going into industry, which was also difficult because even industry didn't understand why they would need a game economist. So I started writing these papers that people can see the value in now, like third tier of game development, for instance, that I wrote in 2010. Back then, no one knew what I was talking about. Today, especially this audience can look back and say, "Oh, Sarcerok was talking about the metaverse. He was describing it in detail back in 2010, but back then we didn't know what the metaverse was." I might argue that today we don't know what the metaverse is, or at least a lot of people are talking about it, but they don't really understand what it is other than some sort of cartoonish thing that they want to play around in. And it wasn't until 2012, especially after I wrote Supremacy Goods, that the big boys started looking at me. I got hired by Microsoft as their first game economist after I published Supremacy Goods, and then I got sniped by Wargaming and left Microsoft to work with Wargaming. And yeah, part of my research was creating a system to build these complex metagame, economic, progression award systems, and also integrate them with my background in neuroscience, so that these systems could be built in a fraction of the time that they were being built in regular MMOs. Like, for instance, Star Wars: The Old Republic took 6+ years. Elder Scrolls Online took 6+ years, and even then, at the end of their production cycle, they were not even sure what their design was going to be. They really just started with production, like content production, and figured they'd figure out the design later, which to me seems very odd. I created all these systems, and I created them to be like IP agnostic and modular. So I could pick from 20, 30, 40 different systems and assemble the ones I needed for whatever game I was being applied to. So instead of taking 6 years, World of Tanks Blitz, I designed that in 11 weeks. World of Warships, I designed that in 14 weeks. Living in Minsk, Belarus, and St. Petersburg, Russia, respectively. Gods Unchained metagame took me 3 weeks. So you can see I am able to assemble these game designs very rapidly, and they work on the first try without any revisions afterwards. Now on Project Eluüne, I've already been designing this for 15 months, and if you put that in perspective, like that's comparing that to the 3.5 months I spent on World of Warships, I've already spent more than 4 times as long as I did on World of Warships. The reason for that is when you add play to earn into a game and player trades, you're adding orders of magnitude more complexity.
So, Sarcerok, sorry to interrupt you. There. For those that aren't too familiar, can you just give us a brief overview of Project Eluüne since you've mentioned it now?
Okay. Project Eluüne is a free-to-play, play-to-earn, super social, AAA MMORPG. You don't have to pay anything to play the game. You can be earning resources that can be sold from day one. It's ideally we want it to be simple enough that your grandmother could play it. So we're looking to attract a wide audience, but obviously because of how new this is, we're aiming at the crypto community first because they're the only ones who are really going to understand what we're doing right now. But as we develop and it starts to look more and more like a regular AAA MMO, I expect we'll cross over, and the conventional gaming audience or demographic will be able to jump into our game and play it. They won't even need a wallet initially. They'll only need a wallet once they want to start selling stuff.
So you did mention it's a free-to-play, play-to-earn, and you say you don't have to buy anything to start playing. So my big question for this is, how does someone who come in without a wallet, how do they start playing it without owning any assets? There's a renting feature.
Oh, you can earn assets without a wallet. You just wouldn't be able to sell them.
Okay. So what would you be using to earn the assets?
Well, you'll be able to earn tokens, but I'm not an engineer, so I can't answer engineering questions. But the idea is that you'll be able to accumulate these tokens without a wallet initially, and then once you have a wallet, you can transfer them to your wallet.
Oh, good. Thank you.
What's the benefits
If I
owning a
say something
startup?
that's engineering, that's impossible engineering wise, I apologize since I don't have an engineer here to ask. But
Um, just before
it's a
you
good
get
question.
into just before you get into that one, Eggy. So Sixon was just about to ask about the Star Garden. So MMORPG, teams of 5 to 40 people. So it's a team game. It's based on this. We didn't get to mention it in the background there, but you've worked for some big games. You've designed some big games earlier, and you've gone down a system that you even write about in your articles that you're not proud of. That you've used people's dopamine. Buying these, doing loot boxes, systems of pay to win that you're trying to avoid now with Project Eluüne.
I don't think I've ever made a pay to win game, and I don't think I've ever designed a game with loot boxes. There's some of my projects have had loot boxes added later on.
Yeah, sorry. So I mean, you do make out that I'm 3 beers deep, but you've said you've worked for these games that have aimed at the market, and that's where they've done it. And now with Project Eluüne, this is going to be a baby for you guys. You really want to make it around the team play, and we see that with the early ciphering and breaking down and opening up the ciphers. You opened up 20. Is it clans? Is that the name for it?
Uh, we're decoding of lore. Is that what you're talking about?
Domains. Sorry. So early on in the game,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
so, so it's going to be a
Do you want me
completely
to
free
go
to
into more
play game.
detail?
Yeah, so it's going to be a completely free to play game to start off with. How do people get into it if they need to? What's the entry? How do people get into it? It's quite complex in itself as a game. So
We've designed it to remove the normal sources of toxicity that are in gameplay, which are often the win-loss binary where one person can win and everyone else has to lose. Instead, this game is designed to be super cooperative. Many, if not most, of the rewards you get through gameplay are achieved collectively and then distributed collectively, so that everyone on your team wins when there's a success. Uh, and the teams may start off as small as 5 players, as you said, but can expand over time to as many as 40, which we think is about the largest you can get and still like know everybody on your team. Because not only is this a much more enjoyable environment when you know the people you're playing with, and they'll miss you if you don't log on for a day. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, Barndog, where have you been? What are you up to? What's up, dog?" That way you feel that closeness every time you log in. But in addition to that, the whole point of having, to me at least, for having an NFT that's like super, we want to sell super premium NFTs. And if you're gonna have like the analogy I give in real spaces is a Ferrari. People don't drive Ferraris usually, especially if they actually paid for their own Ferrari to go 300 kilometers per hour. They buy a Ferrari so they can go 15 kilometers per hour and have everyone stare at them while they go half the speed limit. This is what
Exactly.
I call peacocking. If you're going to buy a super premium NFT, you want to show it off. And you can't show it off unless someone can actually see you using it. So we want as many people as possible to see you using your super premium NFTs. So we have not only teams of up to 40, but you can be battling other teams of up to 40. So you could be battling it out and have 79 other people watching you use this super cool rare NFT creature, which we don't sell. We don't sell any creatures. Everything in the game is earned. uh, and they'll all be like, "Wow, I want that. How do I get it?" Um, so ultimately, this should drive prices up for all of these super premium NFTs, which are not easy to get. Uh, the harder they are to make, the more they're worth. The more people want them, the more they're worth. The rarer they are, the more they're worth. And on top of all that, they're designed so that these are dynamic NFTs. The more you use them, uh, the better they get.
Yeah,
And I understand you're not an engineer. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Like, how do they get better? Is it through the metadata?
Okay, we're going to have to get into alpha here to answer this question.
We don't mind alpha.
Okay. If you play a certain number of battles or a certain number of quests with uh, a rare NFT creature, which we have approximately 200 planned in the design right now, and 800 normal non-NFT creatures that you can play with also. If you play with one of these rare NFT creatures and you complete this certain achievement or the certain threshold or milestone, then it will actually level up to the next higher rare NFT creature in its domain.
Right. Okay. So it's like it's play to earn a higher rank of an NFT.
Yeah, it actually can be transformed once it's reached that threshold.
Awesome. And Barndog's just given us a photo of one of his Star Gardens. And
that's
so
mine.
how does
That's my
yeah, how
Star
does
Garden.
the
We need a team for this. We need a Grape team for this.
The Star Garden
so
itself is also dynamic NFT. So the whole point of your team that you assemble, cooperating to complete quests and then through quests completing conjunctions, is to level up the various domains in your Star Garden to unlock new creatures. And when you unlock a new domain level on your Star Garden, then that becomes a permanent trade upgrade to your Star Garden, so that um, your Star Garden becomes more useful over time. Uh, so then if you were to sell it, then it would be sold with those domain upgrades intact.
So, as an MMORPG, a team game, a lot of it's going to be about deciphering challenges. Um, where's the battling come in? Where does the fighting these monsters? How is that going to come into the gameplay?
Well, if you've played, say, World of Tanks or World of Warships, you have like a garage that contains your tanks or your warships, and you can pick one and go out and battle. In this case, though, you're accumulating a budget that you can spend on creatures to create your creature deck, and then you roll out with your creatures and you battle out in quests with your fellow teammates to try to complete enough quests to complete a conjunction. Or you can go into we have each tribe will be scheduled automatically into 8 tribe-on-tribe battles every 3 hours per day, and you can assign your creatures to those 8 battles, and then they'll battle out with your friends, your teammates, against other teams. So that's and it's designed with currently the design contains 800 regular creatures and 200 rare NFT creatures. So, uh, and it's expected that you'll progress from one end, which is level 0, to the other end of the game, which is level 100, in approximately 3.5 years. And there's enough content that you're going to be getting access to new creatures every few days. So you'll be, at some point, you're going to swap out your old creatures and swap in new creatures uh, based on your budget, so that you're constantly getting like the best, most efficient, most powerful combination of creatures that you think you can create. Hopefully that long pause is because I just blew your minds.
No, I reckon it looks amazing. I reckon it's a great idea.
It's
And the scale here is I have a friend who's a famous developer, Chris Taylor, that I worked with at Wargaming. He did Total Annihilation and then Supreme Commander. He's really into scale. He likes having little things and really big things in his games. And I was kind of inspired by him here because the scale in this game is you start with creatures that are size 1 or 2, and by the time you get to level 100, you're playing with creatures that are up to size 100,000. And you could literally have a size 1s and size 100,000s on the same battlefield. And we want to have that contrast so that it's just feels super huge.
So just for a little bit of extra context, we've got Killer Machine on stage for a question. So I'm actually going to go and join Project Eluüne next week on their AMA and just ask a couple of questions from Grape. Just throw some extra questions out, find out about their sales for their NFT. They didn't sell out. It's an interesting market. There's a lot of questions around that as well, like the NFTs aren't hugely different. Maybe that was part of the problem, but these are questions that I'll ask through the week. We are coming close to time, but Killer Machine, what have you got?
My question was, it sounds very much like the WoW Classic where you grind to get your items, and then once you've got the items, casual players can't compete at all with you. How do you stop that?
Well, I mean, this isn't you are better than everyone else. This is you're on your team and everyone on your team is cooperating and getting rewarded together. So you're eliminating that classic source of toxicity. In addition, since we want the game to be accessible to new players, unlike games like, for instance, EVE Online, which are very difficult for new players because the old players can just kill them off as soon as they come in. We want, and in World of Warcraft, new players aren't welcome because if you're not end game, you can't raid.
Yeah.
Here we have systems set up already so that if you're a new player, you will be apprenticed to your tribe, and if you complete the apprenticeship, the tribe will get a large one-time bonus, and the apprentice will actually get a permanent buff. So everyone benefits, and the gameplay is set up so that the entire team can make progress, even with low-level players on the team, that they can contribute just as much to the team progress as high-level players.
Yeah, okay, interesting. My one is still from WoW Classic, is you find that all the players group together and form one guild that dominates everyone else, and then everyone else sort of suffers. So is that going to be possible?
The goal in this game is cooperation, not who has the highest level. So the best teams will be the ones that cooperate the best. I would say the only place that really makes a difference as far as you being bigger or better than someone else is that instead of in a classic NFT game where your earning potential starts off the highest at the beginning of the game, it goes down over time. In this game, your earning potential starts off relatively modest to make it more challenging for bots to come in and run the game. And it goes up over time. So if you're much higher level than one of your teammates, you both can contribute equally or almost equally to the progress of the team, but the high level person will have the potential to earn a lot more.
Yeah,
So you got a few concepts there that are different than some of the traditional gamings that we've seen. I guess that's why it's you guys are starting to make some strides in NFT gaming. I wanted to follow up with a question to that. So you talk about this game concept where everyone is the winner, where the 40 people in your party are the winner, which is not a won or lose, like a 1 or 0 kind of loss or gain kind of thing. Have you seen these kind of mechanics played out in any other games? Do you have any evidence to suggest that this kind of gameplay mechanic has actually worked?
I don't like the win-loss binary. I don't see it as particularly healthy. I see it as being somewhat toxic. I deployed when you're battling with another team, if the other team is significantly stronger than you, it's almost certain you're going to lose if you look at it from a win-loss binary. I deployed there's a way to do this, that you can actually have smaller teams fighting bigger teams. I created a system for this, what I call asymmetrical matchmaking, for a game called End of Nations, which was supposed to be a sequel to a game I worked on previously called Shattered Galaxy. I didn't get a chance to give them the model because they didn't want to talk to me, and the game ended up not making it to market. So I ended up deploying a modified version of that to World of Warships, where you could have small warships like destroyers and cruisers battling alongside large warships like battleships and aircraft carriers. And it wouldn't give an unfair advantage in the game to the large warships because the two sides were relatively balanced. I take this a step further in Project Eluüne, where if one side is significantly more powerful than the other, but say it's a local team, we use geolocation, so you can play with your neighbors or against your neighbors. If the other team is larger and they're almost certain to win, you could, if you perform well against them, you could actually end up with a larger reward than they do because it's actually based more on your overall relative performance, not on just the straight win-loss binary.
I understand this, but I just want to clarify my question. Has this kind of mechanic worked in any other games previously?
I'm going to say that you're going to see 10 to 20 large design systems in Project Eluüne that have never been deployed before in any other game.
Awesome. As we all know, it's like the projects that try something new and hit the mark. They're the ones that get really popular and get traction.
Yep.
My other games where I've deployed new things like this asymmetrical matchmaking and World of Warships ended up being extremely popular. I also removed the pay-to-win elements that were in World of Tanks when I designed World of Warships. That ended up being very popular.
I played World of Warships. I still do. I like the game.
Yeah, it's something.
Yeah.
Oh well, fantastic.
Yeah, well, I'm going to need to ask you, what's the best nation in battleships and cruisers?
Some weird things were added to the game after I left wargaming, so I'm not responsible for those things.
I played Japan mainly.
What?
I mainly played Japan in World of Warships.
Okay. I left wargaming in mid 2015, so I didn't really get to see that game was going to turn out. But that's testament to the fact that the design worked without me having to modify it post release. And they really haven't been able to modify the game since I left because they don't really understand what I did to it.
Yeah, nice. I do enjoy it. It's a good game. It's nice.
So coming back to Project Eluüne, can you tell us like what are you guys currently up to at the moment? So the NFT minting has been finished. What's the next plan that you guys are about to tackle?
Yeah, I just want to just real quick mention that our goal with the first mint was to, since the Star Gardens are actually invitations to our beta test.
Yeah.
Our goal wasn't a monetary goal with our first mint. Our goal was to get Star Gardens into as many unique holders' hands as possible. So
have you got numbers for that, Sark?
Yes, we have numbers. Yes, we have numbers. I'm about to give them to you. We minted 4,445 Star Gardens, and they ended up in the hands of over 2,500 unique wallets, and that exceeded my goal for the mint. And so that's why we stopped the mint, because we didn't need more than 2,500 people in our beta test. So, or at least 2,500 Star Garden holders, because a Star Garden can hold more than one person.
Let's give the crowd a bit of context to that. So that's a really good point that you're saying there. Keep in mind, when DeFi Land first started, they did 200 beta testers. That was the initial number they started with. That's good. Keep going.
So we stopped the mint, and we did the opposite of what was normally done with mints. Whereas instead of like hyping it up before the mint, getting a lot of flippers to flip their game and buy it out in the first 15 minutes and then unload it, we tried to discourage the flippers. We tried to honestly make our Star Garden sound as unattractive as possible to investors before the mint. And then after we closed the mint, we started improving the Star Gardens to make them more useful than what we had initially described them as.
Dangerous game.
Yeah. I'd sentiment.
The whole point is
I'd sentiment that as well.
We want to create a reputation. We're creating a super premium NFT reputation. So, and we don't want to just be it all to be about speculation. Because if people knew what we were up to, they might buy them all out in 15 minutes like this is normal, and then try to flip them for more money. And we actually wanted as many of our fans to be able to afford the Star Gardens as possible. That's why the rest of the team talked me into dropping the price to 3 sol. I wanted to sell it at 5 sol. They said that's going to make it too exclusive. I said, okay, we'll do it at 3 sol. But as soon as we had met this goal, I got everyone to agree, let's shut down the mint. And then we can re-release the remaining Star Gardens later on near the end of beta when we will need more people.
That's some good alpha right there for people listening. So there was 4445 out of the 7,027 released. So that they've been put away in a vault and they will release out later. So does that mean people have a chance? It's very hard for me in gaming at the moment because NFTs have got these rarities, and it's created a problem, I think, for games more so. People chasing the flips and then driving down prices of the floor because all they're after is the epic and the rare, and then they sell those and drop the floor price. But does that mean people later on get to have a mint and they open up a fresh land, so to speak?
Yes, though I would suggest that even our lowest rarity Star Gardens are substantially superior to the Star Gardens that will be available after we release. So and there's a very limited number of them. The value of any NFT is it doesn't necessarily exist in real space. Its value is based on human perception. So part of what we're doing building this company is we're trying to build the reputation as being an ultra premium gaming experience. So we're not approaching this and with a game that's designed to last at least 3.5 years. I don't think anyone else is really trying to make a game like that right now in this space. So we're approaching this very differently, and we're going to do some things that may look a little bit odd initially, but we're planning way ahead. So ideally, it'll make more sense later.
I don't know with the 3.5 year statement. I'd call that out because I'm not on here to put people in strange positions, but it's really good seeing the fact that we've got someone that's written papers, and how you had over 300 papers, I think, Sar, for gaming all round. But you have to look at, obviously, the big dog in Solana is Star Atlas, and something they've gotten very behind is setting up their economics in the game. We've seen delays and all of that, and I'm not here to just blindly shill out Star Atlas. They're months behind on their mini game, and we'll talk about them very shortly. But there are other projects that want to aim for the long-term game. What I like is you've told us you've got 3.5 years of concept and monsters and that ready to take people forward, and I love it. Do we have? We've got other stuff to get into. It's hard to cut you off. We could talk about this for hours. For sure.
I don't want to say anything negative about Starless, but
I'm not trying to get a feed on that. I get what you're going at, and I really appreciate that. I love the passion, and I'm keen to get in. It's you're on my side of the country. It's our Tuesday morning. It's American Monday night for the Eluüne. There are plenty that are proposing to be long term, but it's definitely, for me, seeing the unique concept behind it is you didn't want the whales buying the land. I like seeing the fact that you guys have got a figure on it too. That's a very cool figure. We need to get some more metrics within Grape helping us towards working these numbers out. I want to know how many Aurorians are owned by how many different wallets. Is a good number. But do we have any other crowd questions, Metaverse? Have you got any other questions?
No, not. Oh, yeah, sure. You go ahead.
What's the benefit of owning a Star Garden if you invest in one?
Well, the biggest benefit is for any Star Garden holder is you get to decide who gets to play with you and who doesn't.
Yeah,
you're the boss. You no one can be on your Star Garden unless you.
What happened?
enjoyed passive income in the game, but you're going to have basically up to 40 people
Where am I?
working on your star garden and improving the value of your star garden every day as they're raising the levels of these domains.
When you
I'm
say
not a financial advisor.
does that mean that there are other people like around the world on their computer using your Star Garden NFT as like a base for them to level up their creatures and things? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I say that it hosts 40 players, those 40 players need a star garden to play. You
Yeah.
own the star garden. As they're playing, they're contributing their labor value to the value of your star garden, and you're contributing the star garden so that they have a place to play on. And so, whether you want to eventually, sell that star garden or not later is up to you. But you can see how all that invested labor value, assuming it has a value greater than zero, could
Yeah.
end up being pretty large over time, right?
But why would you want to own it just for level it up? How are you getting any value out of it? Like, how's it increasing value, make it desirable? You're just playing games on it. No financial earnings.
I'm not sure if I heard the beginning enough of the beginning part of the question. Can you say it a little bit
Oh,
slower?
sorry. So,
There was a
what
little
gives the
stutter.
Star Garden value? Because if you're not getting anything financial gain for it, what's the point of holding it? Because I could play on
So
someone else's Star Garden.
So I think
a Ferrari might not have any value unless you sell it, right? But a Ferrari could increase in value just because it's rare and it's people want it. But in this case, it's actually increasing in usefulness over time. It's like a Ferrari that when you buy it, it goes 200 kilometers per hour, and then in a year it goes 400 kilometers per hour, and in 2 years it goes 800 kilometers per hour, and in 3 years it's going 1600 kilometers per hour. Now it's not giving you any additional value unless you sell it.
so by that logic, does that mean that all these 40 people that are using your Star Garden, how does that value actually get taxed from them and placed onto the Star Garden? How do you monetize it? That's what I'm just trying to understand.
There's
Can
20 domains.
you?
The land becomes more
There's
valuable.
20 domains in the game, and domains unlock creatures for the people on the Star Garden to be able to purchase in their decks. And as the Star Garden advances,
So
it's
the
raising the
monsters,
levels in the
creatures.
first 8 domains, and then eventually the other domains as they unlock. And this gives you greater access to bigger creatures, and as you approach the end game content after 3.5 years. And these domain levels are permanently modified to the Star Garden so that when you sell it, it contains all those upgraded domains when it's sold.
I understand. Thank you very much for explaining.
Okay.
Just my question was, so you're saying that these Star Gardens from your first lot release or whatever, they're going to be stronger than all the ones that are released in the future?
Yeah.
Or better?
When we minted them, we said that they weren't going to be any different. They wouldn't have any more usefulness than the Star Gardens later on, except they'd be rare. We kind of lied because we actually did raise usefulness, but not until after we had sold them.
What did the traits do on the Star Garden?
The what?
The traits, like, you got dominant, the trait peaks, like dominant trait 14. Is the higher the number better or the lower the number better?
Oh, okay. So after it's not easy for me to increase the usefulness of the founding Star Gardens without creating a pay-to-win situation or creating sort of an imbalance by giving the early adopters an edge. But I did come up with a way to improve the domains so that when you're, depending on which domain you have, it's more likely to be able to progress in the domain that is listed on the Founder Star Garden than the other domains. So you may get a slight increase in your progression in that one domain, or 2 or 3 domains if you have 2 or 3 domains on that founding star garden, at the expense of progressing a little bit slower in the other domains. My hope is that this will even out enough that it's not considered to be unfair. As far as the traits go, I'm exploring the possibility of spreading some love across the domain traits, but I'm not in a position to disclose what I mean by that yet.
We've gone well past time. We knew this would happen. I'm having a laugh on the side here.
I wonder if anyone from the audience has a question for Sarcerok. How do I say your name? It's Sarcerok. Sarcerok.
Pretend you're a lizard man. Pretend you're a lizard man. Stamen.
Sarcerok. Any last questions for Mr. Sarcerok? What about the end grind game? Like, is it?
Yeah, I do that.
Or what's like the time frame to get to end game grind?
I'm expecting it to take about 3.5 years to get to level 100, where you'll be unlocking
very nice
100,000 creatures. We haven't decided yet if we'll build more content beyond that. We could put the rails down in front of the train, so that doesn't have to be the end.
A big question I have at the end.
When's the game likely to come out?
Right, so when is it going to come out?
Yeah, when you can play it.
We're aiming for about 2 years, but we don't hold me to that. Really depends on how fast we get all the production pipeline going.
If it goes completely pear-shaped, past what would you say if it's over 2 years? So if everything goes wrong, say 2.5 years, 3 years, 5, 10?
Well,
that's hard to say.
I have a lot of confidence. I have a lot of confidence things not going on, because if you say everything goes wrong, like a meteor comes down and wipes out the Earth, we're definitely not finishing the game. But for instance, Craig Allen is one of our advisors. He was one of the creators of Call of Duty. Craig is getting very excited about our project. He's introducing us to a lot of people. That's going to make hiring very easy. He's giving us some fantastic advice right now. We have other advisors also, but we think we're not going to have any difficulty acquiring the talent we need to move forward and to organize it, since we have so many smart people giving us information we need in that regard. So I'm really confident that this is all going to come together.
Yeah, nice one. It's just because, like, same as Star Atlas, like they say a lot of stuff, but they haven't shown us much.
I mean, I don't know if what those guys have really built before. What they're doing is very ambitious. So if they pull it off, that would be awesome. But
I hope they do. I hope
these games these games, especially if they're like big open world, when you start doing play to earn, they're already orders of magnitude more complex than their non-pay to earn equivalents. So Starless, what they're describing is significantly more complex than EVE Online. If they pull that off, I'm definitely going to play it.
I like hearing that. I do like hearing that you play other games. So you're still a gamer at heart.
I love Starship games. Oh, I love Starship games. I was huge. I've written papers about my experience in EVE Online. I was the richest player in EVE Online for the first 3 or 4 months that I was out.
Let's just check with Abstract Chaos. Just invited you to stage. Have you got a question, sir?
Yes, I do. If that's okay.
No, go for it, bro.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you guys all for doing this, and thanks, Sarcerok. It's awesome to hear a little bit of your history and some of the stuff you've worked on. I didn't even know of you until now. And as somebody who's played games like World of Warcraft and EverQuest like you did, could you, hopefully it's not too much alpha, but could you somewhat describe what kind of gameplay to expect? Because I don't really have anything to compare something like this to. I'm thinking, when I think World of Warcraft gameplay or EverQuest gameplay, it's pretty clear cut to me, but somehow I feel this isn't going to be exactly comparable.
Okay. Imagine you're playing Pokemon Go, but instead of you just throwing balls at something, you're putting your creatures down, like Like, did you ever see in the first like Star Wars movie, they had the little the little chess thing where the creatures, the little claymation creatures, were battling it out on the chessboard?
Yeah, this is more like a tactical approach, like a isometric type of thing.
Yeah. So, you might put down 10 or even 20 creatures of various sizes, and they'll be battling out against whatever's on the other side. And you may have additional teammates placing their creatures down too. So on the smaller battles, the quest battles, you might have 3 or 4 people battling it out against whatever the AI is throwing against you. But then in the tribe versus tribe, it could be up to 40 people placing 2 or 3 creatures against whatever the other team is putting down. And then you get to see the whole thing play out in like an auto battle fashion, because that would just be unrealistic to try to attempt in real time with people actually giving commands.
So can we just pause just to give people a visual? Is that going to be like an Aurora Eluvium type battlefield? So with the gameplay they've released.
I don't know if I haven't played Aurora yet, so I don't know.
No, just with the videos they've put out where they've got the check it out play fields. They play their what are they called? They're not Zeds is Project Seed. The creatures. What are the creatures called, Meta?
I don't know what you're talking about, but I do get what you mean, as in like Illuvium and Aurora, where it's grid based and it's kind of tactical, but this will have up to like 40 different players or lots of creatures.
Yeah, and the creatures.
Yeah, I mean, imagine Illuvium, except for with a lot more players.
Yeah,
in the battlefield.
Yeah.
Is it dynamic or is it turn based?
Right.
I don't think they've gotten that far.
I'm hoping to hand off the actual gameplay part of it to a gameplay designer and a gameplay team that has more experience doing the gameplay stuff. I originally designed it as turn-based, but I think the technology might exist to do it in real time, but real-time auto battling. So I'm not ready to say for sure how that's going to go down, as long as it meets my requirements that everything works the way I intended it to, and really every creature is kind of designed so that it has some way of bending the rules, so that it'll be difficult for like one team to always kind of set to min-max one team that will always win, because there'll always be other creatures that can counter it and screw up your strategy. Part of that's not only to make the game fair and exciting, but also to make life harder for bots. So bots can't just run one team and get through the game.
So one last thing to follow up on that, like in terms of me preparing for a battle, since it's like auto battling, if I've got a diverse, or multiple creature decks, is my approach to going into any one battle studying the other team, following my instinct with like how flexible I make my team, or just trying to have the most meta lineup as possible,
Well,
like what's my strategy?
If it's a quest battle, you get to see where you're going to fight, and you're going to decide what you're going to place and where you're going to place it. And there'll be multiple ways, so you can strategize which creatures of yours will go in which ways, and then also call in your friends if you're weak towards certain creatures. They may have a creature that's stronger against it. When it goes to tribe versus tribe battles, right now we plan to have it so that you can see the previous 8 battles for any team you're facing. So you can get a look at what type of creatures they have and how they're using them, and try to strategize counters to what they're going to do. But they could mix up what they're doing just to kind of make things harder for you, so that they're not acting predictably.
Hey, that sounds pretty clear to me. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for coming on stage, Abstract. It's good to get some great crowd questions. I love it.